Shalom. I want to start off giving all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Kakadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. And salutations to you, Akims, you brothers, and you Aquas, you few sisters. As I pushing this truth, the 100% truth, none less, nothing less. It's sincerity. It's the Akim, Yashar coming in from the camp, Children of Light, about to expose this devil. All right, third Vice President of the United States, Aaron Columbus Burr. I was led to do some research. I just came up on his name about 3 to 4 days ago, and the spirit compelled me to just go ahead and research this guy, his family, what he did, what he was about, and I came across a lot of information, man, just to show you that these devils, they always talking about what they doing good and make America great again. Trump jobs, more jobs. They teach about the founding fathers, and all these great American historians and inventions, right, and politicians and men in general, but they never get down into the deep, dark history of what these Edomite devils was doing towards each other. We already know what they did towards Jake in the transatlantic slave trade, sub-Saharan slave trade. We already know what they did to Gad, Trail of Tears, all this, man, But let's look into some insights on what they did to themselves, okay? So before we start off, we're gonna get a household favorite when it comes to these Edomites, because you have to understand the country, the United States of America. You have to understand how this country was built, how it was shaped, formed, and fashioned. All right. So let's go to Nahum chapter 3, verse 1. It says, "Woe to the bloody city." This is America. This is the bloody city. What they say, what the movie say, people die every day, B. And just so happened that they was in America. All right. Just to give you an example, we hear about all this, the valley of shadow of death spoken on in Ezekiel 38. This is the bloody city. We hear about all types of deaths, family members, racial tensions, white on white crime, black on black crime, all these different horrific deaths. All right. Little babies being kidnapped and sacrificed, Epstein files, you know what I'm saying? Hollywood, what's the thing called? I can't even think of it. It's in Hollywood. When they take the little people and they do the little dances and all that. I can't even think of the name right now, but you brothers may be able to fill in. It says, "Woe to the bloody city! It is all full of lies and robbery. The prey departeth not." Okay. So as long as we here in America, these devils is gonna lie and rob, steal, kill, and destroy. That's in their nature. So now that we got that out the way, let's go and expose this devil. All right. So this is Aaron Columbus Burr. They have to keep that nameplate going. Them famous men. All right. That's why his middle name is Columbus. He was born in September 15, 1808. He died July 27th, 1882. So actually, that's a different date than what I was looking at on Wikipedia. Because I was gonna try to Salakia. This is his father. We're not looking at him. We're looking at his son. The lesson is about his son, Aaron Burr, Jr. Con. Okay. Yeah, because I was like, wait a minute. Them dates don't line up, That's why you got to do diligent searches. Can't just be putting names to faces or, information to people and they don't even apply to them. It was his son or he was his grandfather or something. So, that's why the Spirit allowed me to catch that. This is the devil I want to go into. His son, the spawn of Satan. Aaron Burr, former Vice President of the United States, born February 6, 1756, died September 14th, 1836. Now, before we get into that, his Wikipedia, okay, the history of him, I do want to highlight that he lived 80 years. And if we go to the book of Psalms, because you always want to prove, the scriptures say prove all things. So if you tell somebody that the average human only lived to 70 to 80 years, they'll say, well, how do you know that? Well, you should take this example for this gentleman. He died at 80, right? So this is Psalms chapter 90, verse 10. And that makes sense because 90 minus 10 is 80. The Lord is all through the Lord. This is his book, man. This is his movie, man. We just here to tell you what it's about and show you the scenes. This book, Psalms 90 and 10. The days of our years, meaning mankind, are 80 years and 10. 3 score is 20. So you got 20, 40, 60, and 10, that's 70. And if by reason of strength, meaning if you can make it past that, just based off how you was living, they be 80 years, 80 years old, yet is their strength labor in sorrow, for it is soon cut off and we fly away. See that? That's why the girl at work told me, oh, I said, what you doing Friday? She said, oh, I'm going to see my grandfather in Maryland. I was like, oh, okay, what you doing for what? You know what's going on? Oh, it's his birthday. It's his 80th birthday. Right, because her family understands spiritually that her grandfather don't have too much time left on this earth. So that's why he gather in the house so he can send off his goodbyes. And you know, we all know what happens after 80 years. You know, you on a short rope. Anyways, let's get back into this devil. It says Aaron Burr Jr. Pretty much, I'm gonna highlight who he was, what he was famous for, how did he leave his mark on United States history today. Aaron Burr Jr. was an American politician, so he knew the law, businessman, so he was good with money and finances, just like all these devils, upper class devils, and lawyer. So once again, he doubled down on the law. He had to know that law. Okay? Who served as the third vice president of the United States from 1801 to 1804 during Thomas Jefferson's first presidential term. And we all know about Thomas Jefferson, all right? We all know about this guy. He was third president of the United States. It says a member of the Democratic Republican Party. Yes, at one point in time, you did have Democrats and Republicans join together, okay? But you can read all more into that. You know, this is a long article, so I'm only here to highlight the facts on what I need to bring out to show you all how these devils work and operate in their life. It says he is primarily remembered for the killing of founding father Alexander Hamilton in a duel, as well as his conspiracy to take parts of the United States or the Spanish Empire to form an independent country. So we're going to pause there. Because if you all know, and we're always talking about the founding fathers of America, right? Matter of fact, you know, if you look at this picture here, it shows you 4 of the founding fathers. And this is an actual picture. I think this is in what? Where's that? In Seattle, Washington? Of America Monument. I spelled it wrong, whatever. Location. No. Oh, that's what it called. That's what it's called. Mount Rushmore. Yeah, where's Mount Rushmore? South Dakota. There we go. It says Mount Rushmore National Memorial, sculpture by Gutzon Borglum and Lincoln Borglum, which them ain't nothing but Germans. I already know it. It says carved into the Black Hills of South Dakota between 1927 and 1941. It shows George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt, and Abraham Lincoln. Okay. But no, that's actually not what I was. So that's not the founding fathers. It's some of the founding fathers. But anyways, Aaron, where did it go? Aaron Burr, third vice president of the United States, killed one of the founding fathers, Alexander Hamilton, who was the first secretary of the Treasury who established the national finance system. Why did Aaron Burr Jr. kill Alexander Hamilton, the founding father? Why did Aaron Burr Jr. kill Alex Hamilton? It says Vice President Aaron Burr killed former Treasury Secretary Alexander Hamilton in a duel on July 11th, 1804 over a series of published personal insults that had ruined Burr's political reputation. So he's basically exposing his ass, you know, because we're going to read into a few things that Aaron Burr did. We already see he tried to start his own country. he tried to lead some men to take over parts of Southwest America at that time. Southwest North America, you know, to start his own country. It says the fatal encounter occurred in Weehawken, New Jersey, following decades of bitter political rivalry. Right, because these devils, the Edomites, they posed as Democrats and Republicans. Back then, you had the Whig Party, you know, a couple other different parties that still live on today. But this is really what they be on. This is where is it at? This is really what these devils be on, man. Give me 1 second. This is Revelation 13:11. It says, "And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth." America, that beast is America. "And he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon." Right, them 2 horns represent your Democratic and Republican Party. They come off as, oh, we want peace and we're here for the people, and we're here to give back. At least Democrats and Republicans, they be on what? Oh, we're here to build up the country and in our wealth and all this and that. But at the same time, these devils under the same secret societies, the Illuminati, the Freemasons. So at the end of the day, they here to act like they for the people, but they really against the people. And then the ones of them, the Edomites, that say, you know what, I'm gonna break off and go do my own thing, like Aaron Burr did, Aaron Burr Jr., trying to overthrow the country and start his own country in Southeast and Southwest America. The ones of those devils, the ones that speak like dragons, well, they all do speak like dragons, but the ones that try to come against their own brotherhood, them the ones that get outcast and exiled. And that's why the founding father, one of the founding fathers of America, Alexander Hamilton, had to expose him through what? Published personal insults, meaning he exposed him through newsletters and newspapers. Because at that time, you didn't have smartphones, you didn't have tablets and social media. People had to go to the news press, that was the modern day media, and them news articles that was published, informed the people on what was going on financially in the country, politically, and govern within the government, and also during war. That's how people knew to go ahead and start gathering troops, when they got them newsletters that gather all your young boys, because we finna get ready to go to war. The Brits are coming, or the French are coming, the Spaniards are coming. All right, so that's why he killed the dude, because he was exposing him, basically trying to overthrow his country. And here's a picture of it. They got Denzel here. Look at this stupid crowd. Look at that. Oh, that ain't Denzel Washington. I don't know who that is. Anyways, so this is just the modern depiction of the shootout. And you see, we got other people there, and look at them. They looking like they just wondering on who finna win, so he can lead them to do more wickedness, But anyways, man, let's get a scripture real quick, all right? To expose how these devils literally live their whole life and base all the things that they do off violence and death. How they built themselves up off violence and death, as we seen Aaron Burr did. Because when he killed Alexander Hamilton, he ain't stopped committing wickedness. Neither did he go to jail for it. We gonna get that though. This is Psalms chapter 55 and 21. It says, "The words of his mouth." Let's see. Yeah, I can just get to the point. This is talking about Esau. If you don't understand this by now, then I don't know. Because it's only for the elect, so the elect to get it. Psalms 55 and 21. "The words of his mouth were smoother than butter." Yeah, I'll be the president, vice president. Yeah, I'll be a Democratic, Republican, da 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 da. Yeah, I'll take counsel with y'all and come to the meetings and the councils and all that. But guess what? But war was in his heart. That's why he killed the man. "His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords." That's why as soon as he got exposed, he said, "Enough talking. I'm finna go kill this dude for publishing things about me, whether they were true or false." All right, mostly true, because he's an outcast. He's a treasonist, if that's even a word. It says, okay, we can stop there. Well, I'll keep going. "Cast thy burden upon the Lord, and he shall sustain thee." That's talking about the Israelites, because we supposed to be far away from these devils and how they conduct life and what they do. Remember, we the righteous, they the wicked. "He shall never suffer the righteous to be moved." Right. So at the end of the day, we all gonna make it to the kingdom. But before we get there, it's a journey, and you can't leave that path of truth, Because if you do, then you're gonna be moved into what? Destruction. All right. That's why you got the straight gate and the broad gate. All right. That's what it say. Broad is the way to destruction that lead to destruction. That's in Matthew. It says, verse 23, but thou, O God, shall bring them down into the pit of destruction. Bloody and deceitful men shall not live out half their days, but I will trust in thee. So that's gonna be Esau end all be all judgment on because of how he moved and how he laid down his wicked laws and destruction and deceivery, not only in America but across the whole world. Let's get back to the article. It says Aaron Burr. Now, because remember, it said he was a what? A businessman? Well, that was actually his father. He was the same thing to a businessman, a lawyer, and a politician. It says Burr was born to a prominent family in what was then the province of New Jersey. After studying theology at College of New Jersey, he began his career as a lawyer before joining the Continental Army as an officer in the American Revolutionary War in 1775. So not only did he have the smarts, he had the social talents. He went to college and was enrolled in college at the age of 13 as a sophomore and graduated with a bachelor's in arts at the age of 16. He was also a warrior on the battlefield, a complete Edomite. All right. That's why I say the children of now are wiser than the children of light. All right. I mean, the children of this world are smarter than the children of light. Okay. It says he began his career. I read that. It says right here, after leaving military service in 1779, Burr practiced law in New York City. So, all right, he was commended as a good fighter, a good warrior for his country, what he believed in. Now it was time for him to go ahead and get a career. It says Burr practiced law in New York City, where he became a leading politician and helped form the new Jeffersonian Democratic Republican Party. In 1791, Burr was elected to the United States Senate, where he served until 1797. So he was moving up in the ranks. He later ran in the 1800 presidential election. An electoral college tie between Burr and Thomas Jefferson resulted in the U.S. House of Representatives voting in Jefferson's favor, with Burr becoming Jefferson's vice president due to receiving the highest share of the votes. And that's how it used to go. Before the 12th Amendment, as you can see down here, whoever received the highest amount of votes became the president. Whoever received the second highest amount of votes became the vice president. It didn't matter about what party you was with, Democrat, Republican, Whig. It didn't matter, all right? But what happened was a lot of fighting, a lot of chaos, a lot of side picking and choosing led to the president and his party and underclassmen or his men on his side, and the vice president, the men on his side, picking and choosing, which led to what? Fights, like we saw with Aaron Burr killing Alexander Hamilton. And here it go right here. It says 12th Amendment to the United States Constitution. The 12th Amendment to the United States Constitution, and this is history on the country that you live in right now, so it's important to know this stuff, provides the procedure for electing the president and vice president, right? It replaced the procedure in Article 2, Section 1, Clause 3, under which the Electoral College originally functioned. Now we're going to scroll down to see what that Article 2, Section 1, Clause 3 is all about. It says, initially, under the Constitution, each member of the Electoral College cast 2 electoral votes. Okay? So each member of the college got to choose who they wanted for vice president and for president, with no distinction between electoral votes for president or for vice president. Salakia. They chose 2 people, and the person who got the most votes became president. Person who got the second votes became vice president. All right. Nowadays, they choose a president to be in his place and a vice president to be under him. That's how they switched it up. It says the presidential candidate receiving the greatest number of votes, provided that number was at least a majority of the electors, was elected president, while the presidential candidate receiving the second most votes was elected vice president. All right. So that's how they broke it up. That's a little history for you. But let's get back to the facts. It says Burr traveled west to the American frontier, seeking new economic and political opportunities. His secretive activities led to his 1807 arrest in Alabama, right? Because them down south crackers wasn't going for that shit. All right. On charges of treason, he was brought to trial more than once for what became known as the Burr conspiracy. Let's look that up real quick. The Burr conspiracy of 1805 to 1807 was an alleged treasonous plot to have been planned by American politician and former military officer Aaron Burr in the years during and after his single term as the third vice president of the United States. Scroll down, it says, Burr, and this is this devil, by the way, a portrait of him, super Edomite. Look at him. Look at his eyes. Look how he just looked like he hell-bent on destruction. I see death, and there it was there to conquer for power. Burr was accused of attempting his international connections in support from a cabal, we know about that word, a secret society of American planters. So he needed the croppers, the farmers for the food and the water, right? In the provisions. Politicians, so he needed motherfuckers that had political power. And United States Army, the people that was gonna get out there and kill the person that's gonna come against what they was trying to do. And that's a recipe for overtaking and overruling somebody. You got the food and the resources. You got the hierarchy political power. You got an army that'll come in and crush your ass. He says he used planners, politicians, and United States Army officers to establish an independent country in the old federal Southwest Territory, 1792, south of the Ohio River, future states Kentucky, Tennessee, so then was going to be a new country, the future federal territories of later Mississippi, and adjacent Alabama, so it was going to be Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, and east of the Mississippi River, and north of the southern coast along the Gulf of Mexico, or to invade, conquer the newly acquired Louisiana Purchase. So Louisiana was going to be in there. Matter of fact, not just Louisiana. Here we go. Oh, it was going to be Louisiana, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, Colorado, Wyoming, South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana. He tried to take over the whole half of the United States. Okay? Later organized as the Louisiana Territory, then divided into future 18th state of Louisiana, in upper northern portion as Missouri Territory. So pretty much he tried to take over Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, Missouri, or plotting against the northern parts of the colonial New Spain, later Mexico, still held by Spain, or against the seizing of Florida. So Florida Peninsula of the long-time Royal Spanish colony of Spanish Florida, consisting of West and East Florida, in the Americas, Western Hemisphere, part of the worldwide Spanish Empire since the early 1600s. Dang, this devil tried to take over as much as he could. I don't blame him. When you got power, why not try stuff like that? All right. Let's get a precept real quick, though. Okay, let's get a precept real quick. This is Psalms chapter 58, verse 1. It says, to the chief musician, Altashith Miktam of David, do ye indeed speak righteousness, O congregation? Do ye judge uprightly, ye sons of men? No, they don't judge uprightly. We already know how they built this country. Nahum 3:1. We just read that off lies and robbery. And then we just saw a perfect example of that. A whole political congressman who had power, the best of everything, literally tried to overthrow his own country that built him up to be what he is. So no, they don't judge uprightly. Sons of men. Remember, we the sons of God. We Israelites. They the sons of men. All these other nations, starting with the Edomites. Yeah, in heart, ye work wickedness, right? So y'all come up with wickedness on how to do wickedness all the time. Okay? Ye weigh the violence of your hands in the earth, right? So if it take you to kill 80 million North Americans, you're gonna do it. If it take you to kill millions of African Americans to conquer them and enslave them and rape and rob and murder them, you're going to do it. Even if it takes you to kill thousands to hundreds, thousands or 10,000s of your own Edomite brothers, you're going to do it for what you want. It says, verse 3, the wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. Right, so there's no truth in this devil. Their poison is the poison of a serpent. They are like the deaf adder that stoppeth her ear, which will not hearken to the voice of charmers. charming, never so wisely. So no matter what you tell them, they all got it set on what they want to do. That's why it ain't no dealing with no Edomite. It ain't no what's the word? Making amendments with Edom. You know what I'm saying? Or ain't no you can't dang, what's the word I'm trying to get? You can't you just basically can't deal with Esau, man. He gonna do what he want to do at the end of the day, man. You cannot come to terms and agreements with Esau. And he's proven that because we just read about Edomites killing Edomites, and they was part of the same political party. So it says Burr's version was that he intended to form 40,000 acres in the Spanish Texas colonial province of the New Spain Viceroyalty, which has been supposedly leased to him by the Spanish crown. Right, lie. Because we just read that they're estranged from the youth. You know, they was born speaking lies, all right? So we can kind of just say that was a lie. We know what you was trying to do. You was trying to overthrow your own country. Anyways, let's look up his early life and education. All right, it says Aaron Burr Jr. was born February 6, 1756 in Newark, New Jersey. I'm going to just kind of skip through to the main point. Here we go. It says, what I highlighted blue right here, young Burr and his sister were then placed with the William Shippen family in Philadelphia because his mom, granddad, dad died all early age, 2-3 years after he was born. The capital, in Philadelphia, the capital of British America. The following year, in 1759, the children's guardianship was assumed by their 21-year-old maternal uncle, Timothy Edwards. The following year, Edwards married Rhoda Ogden, and moved the family to Elizabeth, New Jersey, where Burr attended the Elizabethtown Academy. Burr had a very strained relationship with his uncle. Right, they are estranged from birth, who was often physically abusive. As a child, he made several attempts to run away from home. At age 13, Burr was admitted to the College of New Jersey as a sophomore. That's because they knew and could see the potential in that young man, and that's why they started to mold him to be the man that he was set out to be. 300 years ago, 250 years ago. It says where he joined the American Whig Society and the Cliosophic Society. Okay, let me look at that real quick. Yeah, just another Masonic society, Masonic sect. The college's literary and debating societies. In 1772, at age 16, he received his Bachelor of Arts degree, but continued studying theology at Princeton for an additional year. See that? He then undertook rigorous theological training with Joseph Bellamy, a Presbyterian, but changed his career path after 2 years, right? So he had to study that Bible. Because remember, everything goes back to the Bible, all right? That's why they take the balls of the Bible and they flip them. That's why they told us on them plantations, the Bible says slavery is good and Jesus is white, so obey your master because we the descendants of Jesus and we got you as slaves. That's where Stockholm syndrome came from. That's why Jake nowadays can't get it. But the 1/3, the elect, hopeful elect, we got it. That's why we exposing these devils day by day. It says at age 19, he moved to Litchfield, Connecticut to study law with his brother-in-law, Tappan Reeve, founder of the Litchfield Law School and husband of his sister Sally. Okay. In 1775, news reached Litchfield of the clashes with British troops in the Battle of Lexington and Concord, which launched the American Revolutionary War, and Burr put his studies on hold to enlist in the Continental Army, whose commander-in-chief was George Washington. So he took it all the way from there and became a vice president in 1801, all right? And we know that. So, like I said, you brothers can finish I'm not going to read this whole Wikipedia. That'll be 50-hour-minute video. If you brothers want to learn more about this devil and how he molded his way into American history as a battle warrior, a politician, a lawyer, a treasonist, and a murderer, all right? You can read about his Wikipedia. His name is Aaron Burr Jr. Now, it did say that he was a member of the Society of Cincinnati, okay? Was Aaron Burr a member of the Society of Cincinnati. It says, yes, Aaron Burr was an original member, meaning he was one of the founders of the Society of Cincinnati, an organization composed of officers who served in the Continental Army. He joined the New York branch of the society, having served with distinction as an officer during the Revolutionary War. Ironically, his longtime rival, Alexander Hamilton, was also a prominent member and later served as the society's president general. The two men even attended a festive meeting of the Society of the Cincinnati together just days before the infamous 1804 duel. So that's how you know that this was all like a plot against Alexander Hamilton. Aaron Burr knew he was plotting to kill him. That's why he knew that they was gonna be meeting. He does a plot, you know. Now I also looked up, was this society under Masonic and Illuminati rule? And what does it say? Of course it says no. No, the Society of the Cincinnati was never under Masonic or Illuminati rule. It was an independent organization founded strictly by and for veteran officers of the Continental Army. But okay, if that's the case, AI, then if we go to this website, the MasonicTrowel.com, it highlights here, it says frequently the MSA is asked about the connection between Freemasonry and the Society of Cincinnati. Actually, there is none other than that many prominent military Freemasons, particularly of that time, 1770s to 1810s, belong to both organizations. Probably a connection is made because of George Washington's influence, a Mason, and membership in both groups. Didn't it just say that he was under George Washington's army when he was commander-in-chief? Okay? So then, if we do that, because look, man, ye have an unction from the Lord, and ye know all things. 1 John 2:21. Study to show thyself approved, a workman that needeth not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word in truth. All right? So, this MasonicTrowel.com, doesn't this prove that the society was Masonic? Let's jog AI's mind real quick, and I'm gonna end it with a scripture and we out. I think it's enough on this devil. So next time. The Masonic Trowel explicitly states that the Society of the Cincinnati is not a Masonic body, despite being founded by Freemasons. Get out of here. Words smoother than butter, right? But he's a liar. So yes, we filibuster AI once more. The water to the elders, all right, of GMS, to teaching us how to do that, how to word things correctly. All right, so we ain't worried about that no more. We got what we need from AI. You dig? Anyways. Let me end with a couple scriptures and we out. So this is Proverbs chapter 24, verse 1 to 3. Okay. Proverbs 24, 1 to 3. It says, be not thou envious against evil men. So just because you see Esau prospering in his time and he got all the riches, don't worry about that. We're gonna have all that. But you don't even want all that because he got it through what? Rape, robbery, murder. Neither desire to be with them, right? So don't be no Nolan Wells, all right? Don't be on no Horn Island getting sacrificed, thrown in the water, laughed at. You're supposed to be in these scriptures as an Israelite. For their heart studieth destruction. That's why he was a politician, so he could learn the law, a lawyer, all right? So he could learn how to get over on people and tax people and commit treason without being seen. All right, and getting all types of counterparts and individuals under him to help aid and assist in his wickedness. Speaking on Aaron Burr, but it's all these Edomites. And their lips talk of mischief. Through wisdom is an house builded, and by understanding it is established. Right, that's the house of David. That's getting built up through this truth. But guess what? on the left-hand side, these Edomites know our wisdom. That's why the guy Aaron Burr Jr. went to Presbyterian school for 2 years to learn the Bible. And what do? After they learned all the laws of our Bible, and it don't take them long, as you can see, they go and use that against the people. They say, oh, okay, you say don't kill and don't steal. Oh, we gonna do that. Oh, don't have other gods. Oh, we gonna do that. And we gonna feed it to the people and teach them to be idol to us. Because remember, the earth is given to the hands of the wicked to cover the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where is it? Job 9:24. And by knowledge shall the chambers be filled with all precious and pleasant things. All right? Because remember, at the end of the day, 2 Ezra 6:9 says, Esau is the end and Jacob is the beginning of their after. So it's all good. We're going to keep exposing these devils until they shut off the internet. And we got to go into exile or Jacob's trouble or get our, or, you know, suffer destruction or suffer death in the name